actually record this. So yeah, part two of this one, let's dimension. And even though I have multiple viewports, I'm just going to go into one and dimension. So I can dimension all that. It'll still show up in my other viewports. So as long as I'm going through a viewport, I'll probably start dimensioning my top view. It seems like it's my best detailed view. Um, so I'll probably at least get my depths and heights, look at my overalls. So I'm going to start that right now. And then as I work my way around here, like I feel like I might drop a visible line here and here, like ones I haven't put in. So maybe quickly as I come back in, maybe I will show these transition points from that radius to there. Am I on a visible object? Yeah, I think so. And then I might tuck this one, remove or send this one to back. I was hoping that would show up just a little bit better, but maybe I'll say bring it to front. If that didn't work good, bring this to front. There it goes. That might help a little bit. I was hoping that would show up a little bit there. That shows up better. I don't know why the first one showed up like it was going to go under the center line, but these ones are better. And it's just questionable whether or not I'm going to do these ones, but some kind of a transition here. And whether I'm picking this one or this one, I feel like it's a little bit of a. So that helps me a little bit. See all those. I thought I pulled those together. Oh, I did pull them together. They're just not. They're just different. Okay. Yeah, let's dimension. So overalls. And really, when I think of like, I'm always, I'm trying to get your heads working around like I'm going to have like a what I call like a these datums. I'm thinking of like places where I'm pulling dimensions from, like the kind of like they're called datums, and I think of them as if I can kind of keep them to three, I'm doing good. So kind of a primary, secondary, and the other weird word for try. Tertiary is the word I want. Gold star for art. The third. Yeah, the third. And that is the exact word we use in GD&T to establish. So what I think of when I come into dimensioning is I'm kind of thinking, let me like once I start pulling dimensions, even the first ones I start pulling, I'm starting to establish those datums or those true surfaces to pull from. And so if I just take a quick analysis of this part, and I think of like, okay, if I pull from like three different places on this part and try to base all my dimensions off of pulling from one, two, or three places, one of them that I'm definitely going to use is the bot. Whatever I've used to probably set my part on in my front view is likely going to be one of like probably the primary datum. Could be secondary, could be tertiary, but it's going to be a datum. And so what I'm saying is for sure this bottom surface and the opposite surface of the top there, that bottom surface laying flat in the front view, that is definitely going to be a datum. It's a nice flat surface, easy to control. I can maybe control its flatness and pull dimensions from it accurately. So it's a great place to think of. So I just want you to kind of think of like when I'm pulling dimensions, think of the way you're pulling dimensions, where your intent lies and where that dimension starts and stops. Because a dimension kind of has that. It's like a start and stop. It has arrows. Like it's misleading when you look at a dimension because you're thinking, well, it goes from both directions. No, think of dimensions as coming from one point to another point. So there is kind of a start and finish line. And so think of your dimensions like that. And in this case, like my height dimension here, which I think I'm going to put right here and just pull it out. I'm viewing that as pulling from the bottom to the top. The bottom being my controlled datum, maybe a primary. It's the first one I've established on this right now. So maybe that's my primary datum is that flat bottom surface in that view. And that's really the only, I could pull another dimension here. I could pull the overall width here. Is it better to show it here or is it better to show it in the top view? I think it's arguable. I don't know. I could just drop one in. Whenever I drop it in, though, it's probably establishing another datum in kind of a different direction, right? So this one's kind of establishing a datum in the Y direction. This one's going to be maybe in the X direction. And what's going to be the best? I don't know. And it might not even be the datum that I love. It might just be an overall kind of reference. Sometimes our overalls, I've said this before, they become reference dimensions really. And I end up establishing a better datum than just the overall. This overall does work as a good datum, but this next one might be questionable. Other than I could maybe use the right side. It's a nice flat surface. It's a smaller surface, This side, well, it has some flatness to it. I see the flatness to it here. So I don't know. I guess when I'm going to snap this one, I don't know which one is going to be. I don't know which one I'm going to think about as where the dimension starts and stops. I just know that I need an overall dimension, and so whether I put it here or I put it there, I think I don't know what's the best of that either. So if I just maybe I'll just throw it in here on the front view. It's going to essentially be from here to here, right? That's another overall. If I leave it there, then I might want to say, well, which one is going to be which one is the datum and which one is where I'm measuring to, like which it's from and to, like a gift package, to and from, return to sender. So this one is I would think that in this case I probably would be picking this right side surface as the datum, and this might be pulling from there to there because it is a controlled, a pretty good surface I could pull from. Essentially, those are my datums here are surfaces. They're not center lines or whatever. But you always have another good option of a center line as a datum. But there's two, and then and then I just need the depth. So it's almost like I'm going to establish another datum to go to the depth. I can't use it here, but I can definitely get it in the top view, or I could get it in the right side view. So, and to me, it's like I don't know which one is better. I don't. I really can't tell right now which one is better to define it. Is it better to pull this dimension, the overall here? Or is it better to pull it over here? It's really the same. To me, it's the same. It's the same datum either way. It's just where I put my dimension in the mix is kind of what I'm thinking. And I don't know. I might end up moving that one down here, but it's the same datum, right? Like I think the better datum here is definitely this back surface or this what I would consider, yeah, the back surface opposite the front, because the front surface is not great. It's just a radius falling away from itself pretty quick. It's a pretty small pinpoint uh, datum. So this to me, if this is a dimension that I'm going to keep, I've almost assigned with those three dimensions. I've almost assigned like a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary datum. Bottom surface, potentially the right side surface, and now potentially the back side surface. So that's kind of me interpreting what I've just done there with my dimensions. And now if I think of adding more dimensions, if I like these as datums, then I'm just going to try to think about pulling my other dimensions from these. So anything to locate holes or features, I'm probably going to think of pulling it from this top line to that rather than from here up. And when I come over to this view, anything that I'm going to dimension, maybe any more width dimensions that I'm going to apply here, I'm probably going to consider them coming from the right side here and over. And this one, I can look at it and know where the datums are. This would be one of the datums that I've established in the top view. This would be the datum that I've established in the front view, and then I really don't get this datum at all in this view. It'd be the surface right towards my face here. So I can't usually use it to pull many dimensions from in this view because it's 3D, it's going away from me. So, and that's something also to notice that usually in each view, you get maybe two of the three datums as where you're basing off of, and you got to go to the other view to use the other one. That's the case here. Two of my datums are in this view. Only one of them is up here. So, and then I can even add more if needed, if the part requires it. I always think to myself with simple parts, I'm overcomplicating it if I'm establishing new. And what I mean by that is that means maybe I would come over here and I would go like this. And this would be the dimension that I think I should put in. Well, to me, you've just established a new datum. You're pulling that information from, I liked this surface better. And then you pulled here. I'm like, well, now you've just kind of established a fourth datum in a way. Maybe you're establishing the center line of this out to here, but you've almost added a fourth pull point is what I'm talking about. And I think a good rule of thumb is try to stay as low as least amount of datums as you can to get the information across. And think about where the dimensions are, the to and from concept. So I'm going to delete that one, but I have my overalls. That's how I usually generally start. And this is kind of all one continuous piece. So you've seen how I've usually proceeded to do dimensioning is I kind of look at the parts as maybe even separate, especially if they look separate, like a cylinder part next to a thinner plate part. Well, this one is definitely the most uniform part we've been working on so far, I think. So to me, it's like, but it does have some features still. We've got the overalls, but it has this little foot. I think of a feature of this thing as kind of the foot of this. And have I captured the foot like size and location? Well, I've definitely got one of its sizes here. It's that high there. That's the height of the foot. But maybe it needs to know how wide it is for sure. It's the foot is kind of a rectangular looking feature on this. So it kind of has a length and a width that I should have. And that's definitely going to show up right here. This is the width, and I need to know which visible line I need to dimension to, but I'm not going to dimension to the fillet. I'm going to dimension to the actual width, which should be kind of from here to essentially here, right? It's like 1 inch in width here in that view. And that, I like pulling it from here because that's a datum right here. Like I've established potentially this one is this datum point, and I've actually pulled that from considering this edge, 1 inch. That's a size of the foot, kind of. There's a little bit more size to it. Um, Maybe it's right here. The only place I see that is right here, or in the right side view, I might see this dimension from the top surface to this surface here. I could add that, or I could think of adding because it wouldn't be bad, but it would look like it's definitely a good dimension to have. Would be from here to kind of here in this horizontal shape. Whether I pull it this way probably is how I would pull it. And I would have one thing I want to pull about this. I may not keep this. I'm going to drop it because it is something that I want to know here. It's 1 inch and it's not the same dimension as that 1 inch, right? So don't worry about that. It's not a double dimension. But when you have extension like that, why I dropped it is because I wanted to point this out. I've corrected a few people. This is totally allowed. Like I definitely pull back this one to the object edge, but if this feature I need to reach out and go across my visible line work, that's actually okay. Like that's permissible with my extension lines to do that. Maybe I try to minimize it, or maybe there's another view where I don't have to do that, but it's not like it's a good practice. It just may be that that's easier to pick up in another view where I don't have to do that, and that would be maybe a better and I don't know if that's the case here, but it's kind of is the case. Like if I'm looking for that same dimension in this view, it would be something like this, and it kind of eliminates. So this is I've double dimensioned this now. This particular, but it kind of eliminates extension over the object. This one makes a huge freaking extension line though. So you have to like the drafter has to decide, well, which one's more clear. I mean, this isn't bad either. It's good. Is one better than the other? Well, sometimes it's hard to decide. And so I don't know. And then because the other drafter could come along here and they could say, well, I'm not even going to do that dimension at all. The one I want to know is because if you think of this, maybe what if I step back a little bit and think, even applying this dimension, I've now pulled it off of new datums, right? Somebody should have stopped me right away and said, well, then you just establish a new datum. Yeah, I did. I kind of established this top surface as a datum potentially, pulling maybe down to this feature, or I've established this as a datum. So now I'm needing to control how flat this is. But so maybe the drafter that's paying a little bit more attention might say, I'm going to put this one in, and it's pulling from the same datum. I'm going to delete this one. I'm probably going to delete this one. And now, and see what I've done is I've said, well, that is 1 inch now because I've got from this datum, it's 1.5 inches, and from this one, it's 0.5. That means this is one, even without the dimension. I'm now like pulling from the same point to get the same information. So, and then I don't even have the extension lines going on. So to me, this might be a better dimension selection here. And I know I've got to space them out and do everything, but I like these two pulling from the same base to define maybe that 1 inch that I was trying to worry about as part of the size of that feature. So yeah, and location, I guess location, I'm not, location kind of gets a little bit vague on this because I think I've locked in size, but what is the location of it? Well, a location might come from somewhere dimensioning it to some other feature on the part. And I think I'm going to get that. I think I'm going to lock in a location for that. Maybe when I start to lock in some of the other feature dimensions and they may become kind of like dual purpose. So maybe I'm going to say I've got the size, I feel like, of that foot. And I'm going to move on and think, have I got the location? Well, I kind of have a location. It's off of datum, so I like that. Um, but I think I'll move on to the next feature, like a hole. I think I'll move on to the hole. Other than, did I get this width here? I guess that would be another one to check. No, I did not, right? So I've got the height and I've got this width, but how about this overall width this way? I think I need to get that. It's a three-dimensional little foot, so it should maybe have three dimensions to it. And I might put that here, or I could put that here. I think either this is one that I definitely have an option of, and one's not better than the other because they'd be it's either this to there, or I could put that same dimension down here, right? Like this is technically the exact same dimension, really, oh sorry, really pulling from the same datum as well. So it would be like this, yes. This I wouldn't care which one you chose because to me they're pulling from the same point. So either is good. I just wouldn't want both. That would be dual dimensioning, double dimensioning there. It's the same dimension. I know it's two different views, but it's the exact same dimension. So you just get to pick one or the other. Maybe I'll just, for no other reason, I'll just delete that one. But I may come back and put it in, decide that's where I want it. So now I feel like I've got the size dialed in. Let's move on. Let's work on to the next feature, which I think is the hole. Or I could, before I even get to the hole, I could say that how about this miter bevel? I don't have any data on it yet. So let's work off of its and I think it definitely shows that the most clear for that is definitely the top view. I've got to dimension that in the top view. So I think for this is definitely a datum, this right side surface. So I feel like this is a great dimension to pull. It doesn't go in between the views because I'd have to go like clear across it and make a mess. So I feel like this is a good option for this outlier that breaks the rule of not being in between the views, but it's definitely showing it in the most clear position here rather than causing a bunch of extension line woes. Because I'd be reaching clear across everything to that point, and maybe that's just unnecessary. So I've got that. It might be nice to know we've already got the overall, so I've got this as the other point, right? Um, you might like to say that maybe I'd like to bundle those together. That can be a decision I make towards the end. Like maybe this overall dimension works nicely with this dimension, and I would pull that one and then eliminate this one. But I'll make that decision a little later because it kind of what I'm thinking about it is it kind of does relate to this point, which is kind of part of this miter here. And so I think I will. I think I will probably move that up because I'm thinking about it like helping to define kind of in the X direction and pulling from this point over to there, like what that is. So I feel like this is probably a better choice for that overall dimension to be and kind of work, bundle and save. These are both points associated with this miter. Plus it doubles as an overall dimension, and maybe I can eliminate this one. I feel like my top view is probably going to carry a lot more dimension. And then I'm gonna break the rule for it too and just bundle it with its like dimension. And I know it breaks the rule in between, but I'm breaking the rule a little bit. So I'm doing it for clarity's sake more than anything. And then the other thing that ASME likes is instead of like we could do a miter. This you might say I'm going to do an angular dimension here. This is maybe a good practice. And I worked for a lot of places where they did like these, and I think I've explained this before. A lot of places liked this kind of dimension, and maybe I would call it a reference dimension because it's just kind of nice to know information. But maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it's not the most critical part of this. I don't know. ASME likes these to kind of be point to point defined. So I've kind of like with that miter, I've defined two of the points, and now I need to maybe define those in the y direction. And I would do that up here, I think too. I would be this dimension here to here, but in this totally vertical like dimension this way. It's 0.72. It's not anything that would be on the drawing probably, but I like this better than maybe this. This is good. This might be better. This is a datum. I've established it from here, pulling off that back side. And now, so I'm using this into my advantage too. I'm pulling this dimension off that back side. So it's not like I'm establishing new. I wouldn't want to pull that from here to there and put it in here. I like this better. Then that means if I just have a line and I define that and then I define that and I come down from being perpendicular to that point, it'll actually lock in the like this is a little triangle essentially that I kind of built. And this is the hypotenuse where my part actually is. With these three dimensions, I should be able to lock in it's kind of a size and location. And if you added the angular one, I wouldn't, sometimes I like to add those just for those reference, just for a little bit additional clarity. It's not a double dimension because it's a unique dimension. And so I don't feel like it's wrong to have added that. And so I can come back and add it if I feel like it really helps me understand what's going on there. It's like, and we still aren't doing reference dimensions yet because I need a dimension style to be built to do that. If I just look at this real quick, I'm going to pop out our dimension styles and look at modifying this. I think it's going to be on the end tolerances. I should have a place to add reference dimensions, which reference dimensions have parentheses around them. I'm not going to do that here, but I just want to show that there, I think there's a place where I pick whether this thing has like, let me just start from here, where it has brackets or something around it. Let's see. I could be totally wrong. I think that there is a quick way to make it. I should know this, but I think it's in tolerance though, and I think it's in the method. Oh yeah, yeah, maybe here, maybe here, maybe I'm in. Is there not a reference though? Basic dimensions are boxed in. Maybe I'm thinking that I can do my boxed in dimensions with my basic dimensions, which we'll get to talking about those. My deviation and symmetrical tolerances are none. Hmm. I'll look that up. I thought I had a place and I'm just missing it, probably looking, but to build a dimension that'll be in a reference. And I can't say if I know for sure if you've covered that in your chapters. You probably have in your theory book. Close. Essentially, it becomes in a parentheses though, but I'm not gonna actually do that yet, but and I should be able to have a dimension style where it applies something like this. This is how a reference dimension will look on your drawing. It'll be in parentheses, which is indicating to someone that that is not a critical hold point. That's just for reference information only. It may or may not fall inside this actually. I would be more driven by the actual dimensions that are not in parentheses than I would be this. This is kind of like a nice to know, but not a necessary, not something that I would have the inspector inspect to, is essentially what I'm saying there. But I'm going to delete that. I thought there was I think I can build a dimension style with that in. I'll look into that because I think we're going to start using that not in too much longer. So I'll leave that. It's a nice to know. I feel like I've kind of locked in its size and location with just those couple of dimensions on the miter. And I'm not going to pick up any better data for it in any of the other views. So I'm going to move on from that feature and now look at a hole. And I think I'll just start with the big hole first. So it's going to need a size. The best size is probably on this one going to be right in its, let me back up a bit though and say, let me worry about the features of the overall part still. Like I'm jumping into like internal features. Maybe I'll still focus on the external features of this part. So I've got a radius, the big radius. Let's call that out. I don't want to miss that. So it's a radius. And I think I'm going to call it out right here where it's the most clear that this radius is 1.75. And there's only one of them. So there's no two of these going on. There's just that one big radius. I'm pointing to the center. I could leave it here. I might find that I get a dimension in the way and I need to pull it to the other side, but I'll just put it there so I'm carrying it for sure. That's that size. And I also have this other radius going on right here. So I need to call that one out too. So I'm going to repeat that radius dimension here. And whether I leave it like this or have it do a little trailing is okay. I just want to probably put it on the part. That's one of the rules I try never to break unless I have a really good reason for is putting a dimension on the object. So I'll prefer any of these over that. Maybe I'll just drop it in here close. Okay, so now I feel like I've definitely captured the outer features of this part, the miter, the two radiuses. And I'll move to that inner circle now, which I've determined that it's got to have its size. So this is a great place to catch its size. There's only one of those. And I might move these. The rules on leader lines are they like to be at 45-degree angles. But of course, I may have to move those in relation to other things that are going on. So I'm probably breaking the rule a little bit. It's like a 30-degree angle, but I haven't totally decided that's where it lives anyway. I just know that I've captured the size. Now let's capture the location of that feature, the hole. So its location, I'm going to define here, and I've got the two datums here to pull from. I've got the backside surface. I'm going to pull that dimension, and I'm going to pull the right side surface over. And I really only need to pull it over. I'm showing the concentric nature of these two holes, at least, or these, not concentric, sorry. I'm showing that there's vertical alignment to these two holes. And so I only need to dimension over to, I'm probably going to end up pulling this one out like this. And for you that are dimensioning, remember that I do like to have this, I like to have the extension hang over and overlap with my extension line. I don't pull my center line and pull this back this way and have like zero extension or whatever. I like to, I'm okay with my extension lines overlapping center lines as long as it's the center line that's reaching out to the extension line, and the extension line will end up being just right. It'll actually have its little breakaway normal. But when I print if I look at the PDF or whatever, it's just going to look like one line, and it's going to look like center line out to that. So for this whole location, I'm going to pull two vertical dimensions from, not from this. I don't want to pull them here. This would be like me breaking my rule. I don't want to know this because I haven't really used that left side as any kind of a datum. I haven't pulled any dimensions from left to right. So I'm not going to start that now because I can just pull it from right to left, like right here. That's one location with the extension, with the center line overlapping the extension line, which I'm totally happy with, unless maybe it hangs out too much like that. Like I can tell that this one, oh no, it's okay. The dimension is still longer. The dimension extension above the dimension line is a little bit longer, so that's good. And then I just need the other. So that is functioning. That's a dual. That's doing double work. It's doing the locating for this hole, which I haven't even worried about yet, but it's doing the locating for this hole as well. And I'm showing that through my center lines being continuous. And now let's do the other location, which is this one to this, right? And this I want to pull linearly like this. I know that's kind of a mess, but it works. And then pull this back to the object edge. And I've already established this is extending beyond, so I'm happy with how those meet. And that is the location of that hole off of previously established pull points, datums. Yeah, that surface. Love that location. And its size and location locked in. Which to me kind of helps, like, once I really call out a datum, I could decide that this is the most critical. The center lines are the most critical datums. And maybe then I start to say, well, everything's pulled from there, but I don't know. I mean, it could be my fourth datum too, is the center line of holes. But I'm not going to worry about that. I just want to get the size of that little hole now. And so it's going to be a diameter in this view. Maybe I've got to cross something like this. 0.63 is what it is. I think our print called it out 0.625. And I'll come back and like think about that once I'm done here. And make sure that I haven't inferred less accuracy than I was given. So that's something to think about. Remember, I'm holding to 2 decimal places. So let's come back to that later. That's the size. Let's see the location. I've already got one. It's 4 inches as well. So the other location I need is in this direction. So I'm going to pull that, and it's going to go across. This is definitely. So here's one that I maybe would, but what I need is the location from this surface down, since that's what I'm deciding. That surface down. So let's do this to that and pull it across here. It's that 8/8 that we were missing. We didn't even have that. It's a critical dimension to have here because we knew it was missing. And then this, if I left it here, I would still pull this clear back to the edge like that. And then I would have this one reach out and touch this one like that. So that's not bad. So what I mean is this is actually a great dimension. You think that it was going to be this like long extension reaching out, but it's funny that we're so much happier when it's just center lines that are doing this. Actually, it looks good. But I could put that down here too. Like I have few dimensions going on down here just by the nature of it. But some of these I probably could pull here to the whole location. That would be the 0.88 as well. I don't need to put it in here because I got it up there, but I could have put it here and I think that would be fine. It's just that you're only going to get one of the location dimensions in this view, right? You're only going to get that 0.88. You're not going to get the other one from this surface that's towards me out to it the other way. So, but that's okay. It just makes your viewer reading your print have to know that there's the whole size. And then there's one of the locations, and I'd have to come down here and see that this is the other location. And that's okay. Like that's good practice. I always like to say if I have room and I can put them in the same view where I bundle and save size and location are like in close proximity to each other, maybe it makes it easier on the viewer to not have to search your print for the other locating dimension. But I really have the option, even with the big hole, to put it over here as well. I could put that dimension. This is the datum that I've established over in the top view. So I could pull from here to the center of that, and I could put that 4 inches in the front view. That would be totally legit. So it's just that I don't need them twice. And maybe I've just chose to put mine in the same view, even though I'm starting to get views that don't have a lot of detail. I feel like my views are more just for like visualization at this point than they are carrying a lot of detail. I'm gonna keep the dimensions they have, but they're only doing minimal dimensional work and they're doing more like helpful visualization of the part work. So and then I think about any other features that I have. Well, I have all the radiuses, but I think I'm going to carry those in my title block in my notes. So while I'm thinking about them, I've got all these, features of this part are the radiuses that we've had, that I've had difficulty drawing and have probably led you down difficult roads as well. I'm going to carry that, but while I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to go ahead and jump out and make that note adjustment so that I don't forget later because I'm thinking about those and I'm thinking I need to have those located or I need to have their sizes called out. So I'm just going to, while I'm thinking about it, come down here and say rounds and fillets, radius 0.25. Now I've felt like I've covered the size of my fillets. The location is kind of obvious because they're just all over that edge. I mean, I could like if I think of, and I think, it depends on how good, I mean, we just talked in our classes about, our lecture yesterday or whatever was a little bit on communication, right? And you have to think about communication is also not just your verbal communication as a group talking, but your communication is how you communicate on your prints through written words and dimensions. Like that is part of that communication loop. I tend to sometimes be an over communicator on my prints, but then it keeps people from like bothering me at my desk when I've missed something. So an over maybe what I would say is that that's carrying my size, but maybe I could clearly communicate like it's uh, I don't know how I would, have to think about how I would word this, but I'm going to go back in here and maybe use a leader line and a note that says, maybe in the best view that I might I might add a communication line here. So what I'm saying is I'm going to go back in to my viewport and I think we have multi-leader. We did establish like an ASME inch leader, which we kind of formatted this leader. This is what I can add text with. So I might think about grabbing a multi-leader. This might be the first one we ever placed on a drawing. And I might just add a note here that says, it's going to want to have a grip here to plop that down to. And so I'll just pick here. And my description might just be that uh, either round or fillet continuous around this edge. Something, I don't know. I'm trying to think of clearly communicating that, especially where it's maybe not super clear in my drawing unless I had a 3D view of my part. So it could be like misinterpreted. Um, so I might just put something like, um, oh, remember when you're writing, this is like a word processor top of you, right? So there is a spell check in here. So use this to your advantage. Make sure your spell check is like always turned on when you're writing text, just because it'll help you. So you don't make a bunch of spelling errors. Fill it continuous along this edge. So I mean, it's still not super clear. Like somebody still may misinterpret this, but it does say this edge, this fillet is continuous along this edge, and it really is continuous along this edge. I do argue that I have a couple more edges to consider, but I feel like those are maybe shown better here. But I'm asking somebody to just pay attention that your fillet is continuous along this edge here. Which in all reality, that's probably is going to be something that has to be machined by a machine. If this is a metal part specifically, if it was a 3D printed part, we might be able to incorporate the fillet into it. But as far as like if it was a metal part, likely it's going to be cut square, and then it's going to have to be like put in a mill and like have an end mill like trace around this thing and fillet that for us. So they're going to have to like lock it down and do a continuous fillet along this edge. What I'm saying is it's still not super clear because there is some additional edges going on here, and I could choose to call that out and almost use the same note and point to those edges continuous here as well. But I'm gonna leave it just a little bit vague, I guess. But that's better. Now I'm just gonna bundle like package my dimensions. I feel like I'm pretty happy with it, and so now I just need to space everything and get it cleaned up, and then take another hard look at it. 0.375. I guess. Well, you spell check. Did I spell it right? I don't think it continuous. UOUS. That, well, it's funny that you're saying that because when I spelled it, I was like, I'm gonna make sure my spell checks on. So that's funny. 'Cause I can probably mess that up too. Did you get it right or did I? This one here. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm actually, oh, this is good that you said because I'm actually on this is I'm glad you said that because really I'm on the wrong layer. I'm on my dimension layer actually. So this one really should be on your text layer actually. So your multi-line text could be on your text layer. To me, that's it'll look yeah, it's easy to mess that up. And I think between text, well, the text is a little thicker. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily want that on your dimension layer. So yeah, just make sure it's on the right layer probably.
Still want that in the model space.
I am actually in the viewport still. I'm just doing it. I think that'll still anytime I write stuff though, anytime I add text or add dimensions, I usually do them through the viewport so that I get the annotation scale correct. So yeah, yeah.
I guess
Is that what you
in my
meant?
mind, is it right that on model space?
It does. Yeah, yeah.
On
If,
model
if
space.
if you jump over to model space, all this is written there. Yeah, yeah. So it is misleading. I think you'll still get the same error. If I went in here and I forgot that I was not in a viewport and I go to put this is for me to check here. If I went to put in a multi-leader, I think I'm going to get that same blurb that you would get like that disclaimer that like make sure you know what you're doing here because you'll do when you go to dimension you get this display here and it's like it's my indicator that I need to go to the viewport. So it does affect your leaders as well. So I'm going to say out of that, go back into my viewport. I think I'm still going to be able to make this work. I'm just going to have to like resize my top viewport, but I'm not even going to worry about that yet until I actually get the dimensions spaced how they're going to be. So I got to jump in here and fix my spacing still. I actually just did my front view one. It's the only dimension I have there. I think I've bundled that one. I needed to get this one. These are 0.375 away from the object, the intermediate dimension. I'm going to space these other ones out, the auto space. This one's an intermediate dimension as well. You could. Yep, you could. If you want to bundle it in there, you can. I'm really pulling from the same datum, so I'm okay with either one. I think there's not maybe it's good and better or whatever. So I almost think that's almost like they're one isn't better than the other actually because you're not reaching across. You can grab that point there, so you're fine. If it's up there, leave it. Yep. I know I have a little less room. I'm being a little strategic because I know that I have on my drawing, if I jump back out, I'm more in my mind, I'm already knowing that I'm a little bit crowded here and I'm going to have to move this view down, resize my viewport. So I'm probably happy as compact and tight as I can keep my upper dimensions. I'm kind of considering that. That was always in the back of my mind once I looked at this and how it was going to kind of work on my drawing anyway. I was always in the back of my mind, like, I know I've got limited space above it. However, because I didn't put very many dimensions in the front view, I'll be able to easily fit them because I'll be able to pull down my viewport from the front view because it's not really carrying any dimensions. So I'll clean that up once I space them out here. So they're going to get a little bit bigger because I think I'm actually a little too tight as it is. So let's resize this one. 3/8. not 375. That will be a long ways away from my part. That actually staggered for me pretty nice too. That's good. Maybe this went a little funky. Oh, I can tell it did. Like when I spaced that, I got that one weird. So I'm gonna actually undo. I'm gonna control Z this a couple times for me. This happens to me sometimes when I grab here, I don't grab the right point. Yeah, that's better. So for some reason, my arrow and my extension endpoints got kind of fumbled and they weren't real clear here. And that happens to me every once in a while. Those two grips got on top of each other and they kind of reversed and they're hard to get straightened out. Create some separation there. We got some crisscrossing going on. I'll fix that too. Just need to get this one where it goes. Should be 0.375. And then once I have that, I'm going to probably pull this back as tight as I can, but still not interfere with my other dimension. So something like that. I consider this a dimension line and this an extension. So if I'm going to break this, I'm going to break this for sure and around this. And I got to do that twice because there's the angular dimension. And you can see that if you zoom in, it's almost like it's got two. I can see it. So I'm going to break it again and I'm going to grab this one and this one. That's kind of hard to do every once in a while because it's hard to see that, but that's what's going on is I have the angular dimension and this dimension overlapping the extension lines overlapping that. So I had to pick it twice to break it because I don't want to break this one. And I might drop it down just a little bit lower, just so I have a little extension through. That's it. It's a small detail. Nothing, not too critical, but these I think I'm okay with. That one I'm okay with. If this one has the arc with it, that's okay. Don't worry about that too much. This I could maybe slide in a little bit. If you slide in too close, you'll lose your arrow, right? So this is how I know I'm too close, is I'll slide in like this. Oh, this one, maybe liters are better, but I think your dimensions, like, oh yeah, see, eventually when you're too close, I don't like to be too close. I like to at least my minimum is where the arrow shows up with it when it comes to like a leader pointing style dimension. I think this will act the same way too if you haven't experienced this, but if I move this too close, I think the arrow gets dropped. I could be wrong though. Maybe it has to be, maybe it won't even let me on that dimension. The difference there is that one's a multi-line leader. This one is a dimension. Um, there is one problem with my multi-line leader, and I think it's the way I formatted it. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but ideally I would like the middle of the shoulder or this length of this to be in the middle of the text. And if I look at this here, it's just the way we formatted this. If I modify this, you don't have to do this because I'm not going to be, we're going to abandon these templates next week anyway. So this is kind of the last drawing we'll do on this template. But where I have that wrong is in the leader content here. There's middle of top line is what I had it set. And that's actually what I had you guys set yours when you built one. The correct would actually be middle of text. That way, if I have multi-lines, which I always drop a multi-line leader, middle of text, whether it's left or right, because it can come out of either side, my leader can. If I say okay here, close, then that's technically the way I should have formatted my leader. So yeah, this is ready for me to position on my paper now. I feel like I'm happy with my dimensions. Um, I just need to look at how they fit and then call this one done. So the last thing is just to size my viewports a little bit. So first I'll at least size them so I can see what I have, and then I'll decide if I got to orthographically align them a little bit again. Zoom in here. So really this viewport at least needs to be this big. And over here it can be down to that small, about that big. I might move this one just for a minute. I'm just going to get it out of the way. What I really want to drive is the size of, I need to get this one so it's not in the borderland area. So that's still a little too close, I feel like that. It gives me some space off the border. I'm still orthographically aligned with my construction line. I just need to see if I can fit this one might have to move down a little bit. And I could. I've already added my other note. So this to me can probably come down a little lower. So I might move my this one. If I use the move command, I don't grab and so find yourself using the move command a lot. I'm just moving my line down because I have this much more space to work with there. And now I'm just going to move this back and see if I can fit it here. I can resize this a little bit. I'll get this as small as I can while I can see it here. Just I don't need any more down than just below the center line. And the top I can pull down quite a bit like that. And then I'm going to move this. I'm going to use the move command on my viewport, but I'm going to move it by this point here so I can use my little corner right here to be where I want to move that. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll get in here and I'll turn off that grid. Can be a lot for your eyes to manage here. If I can get out of a command, thank you very much. That one I'm going to need to pull down and resize a little bit. I want to catch that dimension. Make sure you're not cutting off stuff that you didn't mean to cut off. Good. Now I'm going to use my move command to move that viewport by this point though and drop it down so it's orthographically aligned with the front view. I'm not going to worry too much about the orthographic alignment here. I think I generally just kind of like infer it. However, I wouldn't want somebody to pull those across. So I'm going to turn off that construction layer. Maybe I'm just going to control P this thing and take a look. I know one thing I got to do is change the name here. For me. CAD 1108 bracket design. Today's date. To change this, the 10th month, right? Already the second day. I'm gonna save that. I've done all this work without even saving. That is so flippin' dangerous. I'm an idiot. So don't be like me. I should have done this as a save as pretty soon when I open it. But you know, if you hadn't done that either, I didn't mean to call you an idiot. I was just speaking to my own self, just so you know. It's just like when you think if you just done all this hours worth of work, all it takes is a stupid blurb. There probably is a backup file for it, maybe. If I had never it's true. It's like you should save every hour at least or every half hour. Like I'm kind of breaking a bad habit I'm teaching you here. I should have saved this a while ago. Yeah, definitely. That's good. Once you've done a fair amount of work, it's worth saving, right? So mine's actually going to be the ortho version. Good save. Because now I'm going to click in here and I can turn this off just to keep some consistency here with my viewports. I need to do line type scales. I can tell that before I even go in to look at I'm going to do line type scales now. I'm happy. These are 1-to-1. I'm orthographically aligned. I got plenty of room. I'm on my B-size sheet, so it kind of follows the rule that the assignment said. I didn't know if it would or not, but I think this is good. And then I've got a couple more things. I know we're out of time, but the biggest thing line type scales are one, but before everybody leaves or whatever, the biggest thing I need to do is not start to lessen the accuracy that was given to me. And what I mean is I'm going to refer to my sheet. I know that it's missing a dimension, which I'm going to add today. That 0.88 should have been added. But what I want to do is I want to go back and if the engineer or whoever the design intent, if it explicitly had dimensions, I'm going to maintain those. I don't want to round those off. And I have rounded some here. I have a two decimal place dimension style, but when I see here, I have a mix. I have 2 dimensions or 2 decimal places, and I have 3. I do not want to round those and start causing inaccuracy from what I was provided with to what I'm going to deliver someone else. So I'm going to like come back here and notice that 625 is critical. I don't want this to round to 63. That would be maybe that would be wrong. And so I don't want to hold less accuracy. I'm going to move this to a 3 decimal place. I'm going to look at anywhere else that's going on. Everything else I see is 2, except for up here, this whole size is to 3 decimal places. And the whole location for the big hole is to 3 decimal places. So I'm going to go back to and I'll show you how you can just spot correct this. I could like normally on a lot of prints, I probably will have multiple dimension styles that are already preloaded like that so that I can do pretty quick. That one's 3, that one's 2, and I can change pretty quick. I only really have one. I have a 2 decimal place ASME inch. So what I want to do is like the foot width here, which is going to be actually my height, my foot height in my drawing, and uh, and these depths here and that size, I want 3 decimal place. So I'm going to come back to my drawing. I'm gonna go back into the just into the viewports. Fine. You could do this on the model too, but I'm gonna go back into my viewport since it's a dimension. What's critical is that this dimension is not 288, it's 275. So if you just select it, if you just click it once, you have to remember like there you have multiple selections in a dimension. You can double click to do like entry and change it. Don't ever freaking change those dimensions. Change your part to match the dimensions if they're wrong. But there are things I can add here, symbols and stuff, great. But if you just click once, I think I've showed this before, click once and then right click, you get this huge drop down menu of some other additional commands, right? Precision is one of them. So I can just, without creating a whole new dimension style, I can just choose to spot select this. I want to carry more precision. So I'm going to go down here and it just says how much precision. I need this to be 3 decimal places. The 0.88 was what was on the drawing, I think. So I'm probably going to come back and change that. But this is the other one I need to change. This one, I need to change it to a precision of 3 decimal places. And I also need to hold, what was the other one? It was the height of this one. This is not, wait, is that it? It was the width. It was the depth of it actually right here. Where did I put that? Oh, I'm missing it? No, it's right here. It's right here. It's right here. God, I got it. See, geez, I forgot how to use my own prints. This one, I need to have a precision of 3 decimal places. So that's just me kind of doing a spot modification of the particular dimension style. I think if you have your properties panel up like I always do, you also have access to that. Like I'll click that here. I mean, your dimensions carry a ton of properties, which is it gets to be a little overwhelming. But I guarantee in this somewhere will be the precision. If I just look here, text, height, primary units, dimension round off is that. But I think I don't know where precision is. It could be that, but I'm not. It should be one that shows that I'm holding 3 decimal places. Precision somewhere. Well, I'm out of time, but it's in here. I guarantee it's got to be it. I always get to mine doing what I just did. I click once and right click and get into this. It's also a quick way that if I had preloaded other dimension styles, I can get to switch those right here too. So I use that a lot because generally I have like 10 or 15 different dimension styles that I'm using in my drawings. And so I know we only have one. So I just did a spot change and made sure I carried those. And then I have to just make sure I didn't do any like didn't cause any interference, or I might bump that out just a little bit to carry that third decimal. This still maintained good. The other one I changed was this, which didn't affect anything. So now that is the most critical before I even do line type scale. That's still the last thing I have to do is fix my line type scale. And but I'm happy. I'm not this is super critical, not for you to not hold the precision that was given to you, right? Do not do that because you'll affect the part's functionality probably every time. So hold the precision that you were supplied with at a minimum. And then I just need to fix line type scales. So let's do that. I want these to show up just a little bit finer for sure. My center lines. That looks good. That's just a half. I could maybe match that to this one's, I got that little there too. That's good. I know it's not breaking up there, but I'm okay. It's breaking up across. And these ones definitely need to be finer. Probably finer than even a half, but at least half as much. That's okay. Break it. I might even go just to a 0.25. I get it to break up just a little bit better. And then I'll match this property to this one. I have to double click into those windows to do that, but yeah. And then my hidden lines, they seem to always be a good line type scale. It seems like on these inch drawings. So I think I'm happy. Let's control P this thing, see what the PDF looks like. Looks pretty all right. My notes, my N on my notes is clashing with my board. I need to move that in just a little bit. So be real critical when you come to this point. This is like what you're delivering to someone. So this is technically probably the most important point to make sure everything's clear, legible. This is going to become a PDF or even printed sheet if I need to. So Looks like it's orthographically aligned. I'm just going to bounce. I think that's the only thing that really catches my eye is that I'm going to cancel that and just move this in just a little bit. It's got one grip. I'm going to pull it off the border just a little bit. Yeah, nothing interfering with the border, no overlapping, dimensions crashing. Nope. Every view is kind of necessary. I think it's helpful for the clarity. Plus, I've even used them as dimensions. For the one you dimension by yourself, you might find that there maybe is a view that you don't need, and that is true. I gave you three views to dimension, so you can choose to use them or not. Or like this, you could place one dimension on it if you need to, but you don't have to delete one of the views if you find that a few people that I've seen upload it probably were able to get most of the dimensioning in the top and front, and it was questionable whether we needed the right side view in that base mount part that you'll dimension. But just you know use it. I like it for clarity, and then usually if I have a view for clarity, I kind of like to put a dimension on it. Otherwise, I feel like it's almost worthless. So anyway, let's call that good. I'm gonna save that. Okay. Save it with my drawing somewhere. Mine's week 6 bracket design. And I just like it. I like it to match exactly what the drawing is, and I like them to be bundled together in the same file. So save. Swoop. That's it, you guys. If you don't come in tomorrow, that's fine. I'll see you on Monday. If you are coming in for math or if you need other drawing help, I'll see you tomorrow.